Good morning, friends. Prepared Suburbanite back at you. Today is the 4th of November 2022, and as you all might be aware, there's an election next week. The 2022 midterm elections will be held on Tuesday. I think there are still some areas and some states around that are allowing early voting and things like that going on. Here in North Carolina, I think tomorrow is the last day for early voting, but obviously you can go on Tuesday and cast your ballots like you're supposed to. So, but here's my thought, and it's basically a question for you. Have you heard any of the candidates really talk about solutions to tame inflation, to get the spending under control in both Washington and in your state capital? Have you heard anybody asking the questions or running on the platform that says we need to rein in this debt, we need to be fiscally responsible? And that's my platform, and I am still searching for the guy that can do it. So let's stick around. I've got some more backup detail on this. I'll be right back. I think the real reason that we're not seeing any candidates running on a platform of fiscal responsibility, cutting spending, balanced budgets, those kinds of things, is because it's also going to require discipline and some self-sacrifice by the American people. And I don't think folks are really ready to do that. I did just read an article on Fox News that indicated that Manchin, the senator from West Virginia, who's hard to say what his political disposition really is, but he's actually beginning to advocate for some fiscal responsibility. If you can stumble on that article, go read it. It may shed some light on this whole topic of fiscal responsibility. Surfing earlier today, I found an article that Max Slavo authored and put up on a website, and it's entitled, "Americans Want More Stimulus Checks to Fight Inflation." Well, if you understand really what's going on with inflation, which boiling down to very simple terms is too much money chasing too few goods, that causes inflation. And where does too much money come from? Well, a couple of rounds of stimulus checks in the past really did kind of contribute to, it triggered the initial phases and stages of the inflationary spiral that we find ourselves in now. It feels like it may have leveled off a little bit, but I'm not holding out hope because I'm not sure what this student loan forgiveness thing is going to do to the economy, but all of a sudden there's going to be more money in the guise of less debt. So folks will have to realign their budgets. They'll have more money to spend, which may increase the folks that are going to get the forgiveness anyway. Realign their budgets, they'll have more money to spend rather than paying down their student loans, and I think that may contribute to it. I think the job market and unemployment statistics, I think those are both contributing factors to the inflationary spiral. that we've been experiencing over the last few months or so. And I don't really see it getting a whole lot better, because I don't find anybody really truly willing to take a stand on the really tough decisions that need to be made. They're not politically popular. Folks are not going to be willing to sacrifice. They're not going to be willing to tighten their belts. They're not going to be willing to give up on their pet little projects that are funded by the federal government. It's going to be a real trick to get this deficit and this debt and the budget under control. Now, back to this article. Americans want more stimulus checks to fight inflation. A recent poll, which came from Newsweek, it was commissioned by Newsweek. A recent poll ascertained that Americans are willfully ignorant at best and dependent slaves at worst. The poll proved that most Americans are economically ignorant and have no idea what causes inflation. The majority of those living in the United States said they want the federal government to hand out more stimulus checks to combat inflation. Here's some of the detail behind the poll. 63% agree with the statement that goes like this: should the government issue new stimulus checks? 63% of the poll respondents agreed with that statement. They actually believe that throwing more money into the economy is going to reduce inflation, is going to make things better or something. 15% of the respondents were neutral. They didn't know if it was going to help or they didn't know if it was going to hurt. So they just said, I don't know. And 3% just said, yeah, I don't know and I don't care. So that adds up to 81% of the respondents that were cited in this poll. Now, you subtract 81 from 100% and you get 19%. That means less than 20%, less than 1/5 of the people in this country disagree with that statement. So only 20% of the people, at most, are thinking that this is a good idea, or this is not a good idea, that we should not be funding more stimulus checks to pass out to people that it's supposedly going to make life easier. That's 20%. That's why we're not going to see any fiscal responsibility platforms, anybody running on that, especially in these midterms, and we've still got 2 years to go before the 2024 presidential, I guess, election. I don't think we're going to have anybody standing on that platform that says, hey, we all need to tighten our belts. Hey, we all need to live within a budget. Hey, we all need to do all the right stuff, curtail this spending, get things under control, and sacrifice, because it's going to be worth it in the long run. It's not going to resonate with the voters if only 20% agree with this kind of a it's just amazing. I am so disappointed in the American public that I could just scream right now, because we are our own worst enemies. Now is the time. If you, in your personal lives, if you're living on a budget, if you've developed a budget for yourself and you know where your money's coming in and you know where your money's going out, and you can actually budget and stay within that and keep your debt under control, more power to you. And I think that the federal government and the state governments all need to do exactly the same thing. Live within our means. This is craziness going on right now with $31+ trillion in debt out there. It's unsustainable, and we are going to pay the price in the long run. So Don't be wishing for any more stimulus checks. Tighten your belts and let's elect the right people with the right thoughts. This is the Prepared Suburbanite reminding you to be prepared always. And I'll see you all on the next video.